What does it look like to maintain a coalition in the midst of chaos? Let's get into it. It's no secret that there has been a civil war on the right, and today I want to explain what it looks like to have no enemies on the right or no enemies to the right. Where did it come from, and why does it matter so much today? The German philosopher Carl Schmitt came up with the idea of the friend-enemy distinction, which means, and was personified in Ronald Reagan when he said that if you agree with me 80% of the time, we're going to be in the same boat, headed in the same direction. And that is the loyalty test that has been brought forward by people like Matt Walsh in our current political environment, where folks like James Lindsay are calling everyone bad guys from World War II, while Matt Walsh and others, including J.D. Vance, are trying to hold together a coalition of wild people that are wiling out, from Joe Rogan to Nick Fuentes. How do we hold a coalition together that has such widely varying views and widely disparate ideas about where the country should go? In the 80s and 90s, the moral majority took a coalition together in order to try to promote family and traditional marriage, as well as what happens when somebody chooses to want to end the life of their unborn child. And the moral majority had a political entity that moved the needle quite a bit and moved into the Reagan era, where he sort of personified and took to heart the idea that he should maintain the coalition even when they have Catholics, Protestants, libertarians, and other people that may never otherwise agree. And Reagan was a great unifier in that, and that led into the 9/11 cooperation era, where while the right wing may have made some dumb moves in supporting the Colin Powell ideas about weapons of mass destruction, they did come together to form some questions about what it looks like to be a globalist right-wing movement, following which the Digital Era Alliance, which really came around Trump in the last election cycle and now is falling apart because individuals who held the coalition together, like Charlie Kirk, were bringing all of these varying groups and ideas together. And now Matt Walsh and James Lindsay are on opposite sides of this argument about what it looks like to actually maintain friends and no enemies.
Really?
Right.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
In this tweet or X post, you can see that James Lindsay is saying now that America for Americans is something that was akin to what was happening pre-World War II in Germany. And of course, Matt Walsh fires back at him and says that, this isn't a new playbook. We've been compared to the World War II bad guys for a long time, who were, by the way, economic socialists and had very little to do with family values or anything that has a conservative bent to it. But this is what it looks like. If you're calling America First a bad guy from World War II movement, Matt Walsh pushing back is keeping no enemies on the right.
I said, hold up, wait a minute, something ain't right.
Here, Christopher Rufo points out that Nixon was able to hold a coalition together after he was experiencing similar things, holding down your friends and keeping your enemies, at least politically, at the right distance. Matt Walsh here points out that after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, we have begun infighting that has ended up in a place where Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens and even Brett Cooper are on one side, while people like James Lindsay are calling us all bad guys from World War II on the other. And this signals to the left that if you put a dagger in the right place, you can ultimately break up a coalition. And that has led a lot of us that were conservative to begin with to say it's time to personify what it looks like to have no enemies on our side. Here, Matt Walsh is again defending J.D. Vance, even though, he comes from the tech bro side of things, which may not be precisely where someone like Matt Walsh comes into it. They're both traditional Catholics, which means that he is defending his man. And I would too, in the instance that J.D. Vance is closer to being someone who actually believes what I believe, who has the ear of the president and is in the White House, is truthfully more America first, it seems nowadays, than even the president. Here's an example of what it means to be no enemies on the right as Michael Knowles defends the Heritage Foundation leader Kevin Roberts after he defended Tucker Carlson. It's quite simple. We don't cancel each other. Let's just try to utilize those kind of tactics. Michael Knowles, a great representation of that here. These types of unity strategies are utilized by coalitions that feel outnumbered. It's a very pragmatic way to try to assert yourself, especially when you feel under threat. And if there were ever a time for us to try to recognize the real threat and go back to fighting the cultural forces that we actually need to defeat, it is now. So my admonition is that we take this seriously, we try to unite, and that unity might actually help us to once again outnumber the coalition that elected Mamdani, the coalition that would push AOC, the coalition that would push the globalist communist agenda that's coming forth from the left. We have a real enemy. They're not each other. It's time to stop eating each other. We do, however, need to recognize what it means to be on the right, because there are members of the podcast sphere that don't necessarily belong to us, like James Lindsay, but are certainly trying to identify and cleave off parts of our movement that they think don't align with their values. They were never us. James Lindsay is certainly not a great representative of what it looks like to be on our side. And so we identify who our friends are, and we press out our enemies from the movement. That is reasonable. It is not no enemies on the right, because they were never on the right. So identify our friends, push our enemies asunder. Let's reunite and fight the right enemy.